The guys are over here, and today bring you Let's Talk F1 2014, the Italian Grand Prix. Now, this is the series where usually we talk after FP1 and FP2 on the Friday about the aerodynamic updates, and then look ahead to qualifying and the race. Unfortunately, yesterday didn't have enough time to make the video as well, but it's sort of not a big deal, because here at the Italian Grand Prix, much like the last race we had at Belgium, there's not a lot of specific updates teams bring. Every single team is bringing the same sort of updates, which here at Monza, being the high-speed circuit it is all about low drag setups, and they're all bringing low drag rear wings and front wings and even side pods to try and just try and cut drag, especially with the front wings. We saw quite dramatically with the Red Bull, they didn't run any of the front cascades on their front wing. Essentially the kind of top bit of the front wing, they just didn't have it. They just had the main element wings, which is kind of weird to see. It's sort of like a front wing that's not nearly finished, because at least I'm quite used to seeing those front cascades pretty much in every F1 car, so it's kind of weird to see the Red Bull running without them. But it's the only way Red Bull, with the kind of deficit they have in power, to try and make up for sector 1 and 2. The only way they can do it is by simply taking off all these aerodynamic bits and running the skinniest rear wing they can get away with, whereas the likes of Mercedes can actually still run these cascade bits, as their engine is just so optimized and powerful enough. But yeah, we're gonna do a bit of qualifying review instead for this Let's Talk instead, because as I said, that's pretty much the only thing to talk about. Aerodynamic updates, everyone brought the same sort of stuff, just making their rear wings and front wings as skinny as possible, but still having enough downforce for sector 2. So we're going to do a bit of a qualifying kind of review. So if you didn't know, Lewis Hamilton got on pole with Nico Rosberg in second, Valtteri Bottas in third, and fourth is Felipe Massa, and then both the McLarens in fifth and sixth, Magnussen and Button, and then the fourth row, Alonso, Vettel in eighth, Ricciardo in ninth, and Perez in 10th. So the front three rows are all, kind of 2x2 teams. We've got the Mercedes, and then Williams, and then McLaren. McLaren doing a really good job to get on row 3. Very surprised. Obviously, you guys know I'm a Jenson Button fan, and indirectly a McLaren fan because of that. And I was very surprised for McLaren to be that far up. I wasn't really expecting too much. I mean, I expected to have a little bit improvement comparing it to Belgium, but 5th and 6th is very good for McLaren. I mean, it's not a very good thing to say, considering McLaren used to be a winning team, but for the situation they're in now, 5th and 6th is very good for them. But let's talk about up front with Mercedes, Hamilton and Rosberg. So Hamilton, I think he pretty much had the pole nailed down from Q1. Basically, Rosberg is running a lower drag setup, so he's got a bit less downforce. And that basically means Hamilton can gain a lot more time in Sector 2, where you've got the majority of the harder corners here at Monza. And Hamilton is getting too much time compared to Rosberg, in terms of Rosberg, although he can gain a bit of time in Sector 1, and in fact on his last run in Q3, he went faster than Lewis in Sector 1, and I'm not too sure if he went faster in Sector 3, but he definitely went faster in Sector 1 by at least, I think it was at least 1/10 and 200ths. But he couldn't gain enough time in Sector 2, because Lewis is getting too much time over him there for him not to gain enough in Sector 1 and 3. So it was sort of inevitable that he would get pole, really, I think. In the race, it'll be a bit interesting, because I think, it's going to be a good dynamic, because Hamilton will be quick in Sector 2, but under heavy fuel, Rosberg will definitely have a bit of an edge, maybe, in the DRS zones in Sector 1 and 3. If he gets in the DRS zone, it could be quite dangerous, but of course, in the first few laps, I think Mercedes have probably told the drivers to back off a bit, and to start fighting maybe after lap 5 or so, or at least just to tell them don't get very close in the first few laps. So that'll also play into it, but at the same time, if Hamilton does a Sebastian Vettel-esque sort of thing like last year, and just kind of streaks away, breaks the DRS points, it's the same sort of philosophy as Red Bull have been doing. Red Bull last year, their philosophy, especially with Vettel getting on pole, was just to break the DRS. The Red Bull car wasn't fast in a straight line. If it got in the DRS zone from someone behind, it was actually quite susceptible, but the Red Bull would just keep on breaking the DRS zone and then just streak away on the downforce they had through the corners. The same thing can happen here. If Hamilton breaks the DRS of Rosberg, gets without that kind of 1 second gap, then he can just streak away, because he's going to be gaining time consistently in Sector 2. Yes, he'll be losing a tiny bit in Sector 1 and 3, but it's not going to be enough without DRS from Rosberg. And obviously, if Rosberg's second and more than a second back from Hamilton, he's not going to get DRS from anywhere else. That also leaves Rosberg susceptible to the Williams. The Williams cars, third and fourth. Obviously, they've got really good aero efficiency in that car, and Mercedes got to be careful. If they're fighting, if Hamilton doesn't break the DRS, and they're still fighting away with Rosberg coming back at him in DRS in Sector 1 and 3, they're going to have to be wary of Williams, because they could also slip by with DRS DRS, and if the Mercs don't have DRS behind them, then the Williams definitely can try and beat them in a straight line, so that'll be quite interesting as well. McLaren, I think the best they can do is finish 5th and 6th as they are in qualifying. I don't think they'll be able to challenge the Williams and the Mercedes, for sure not the Mercedes, but not even the Williams, because the Williams still has superior aero efficiency and also a bit more just general downforce for the corners in Monza. So I think the best thing for McLaren would be to get 5th and 6th. Alonso in 7th, you know, obviously I think the best, you know, they're saying on Sky F1, the best Alonso could have probably got is 5th, most likely 6th or 7th, so he's pretty much there where everyone sort of expected it to be. The Ferrari car obviously very underpowered with the Ferrari engine. I think the best thing Alonso could do is get a really good start and maybe hold up the McLarens and maybe get up to 5th by like the first 2 corners and then hold up the McLarens as much as you can, but I don't think he'll be in the position to kind of make a lot of overtakes. That car really isn't that great in a straight line. And the same story with Vettel and Ricciardo in 8th and 9th. I think the best that Vettel or Ricciardo could hope for is getting 7th place and beating Alonso, and I think the best Alonso can hope for is maybe holding up the McLarens for 5th, but realistically he'll be fighting to try and keep 7th from the Red Bulls and maybe battling one of the McLarens, you know, later on to the race if their tyres are going badly. Obviously, you know, the McLarens, you know, they may struggle with tyre wear, so that could play back into Alonso and Vettel's hands, but you know, I think it'll be a scrap between Alonso, Vettel and Ricciardo to kind of get maybe 7th or challenge the McLarens, but I think they're going to be pretty much not going any further than that, because obviously Vettel and Ricciardo being in the Red Bulls, the Red Bull car, you know, they've gone with a very skinny rear wing and a front wing, but that's still not enough. That Red Bull is very underpowered compared to the Mercedes, but also at the same time, it doesn't matter how much downforce Red Bull are taking off, their chassis design is naturally more aero kind of heavy than the other cars. It's a lot more kind of draggy compared to the other cars. You know, that's a good thing for other circuits, but for this one, really does hinder Red Bull. Perez in 10th place, Raikkonen was in 11th, so he didn't get into Q3. He actually got promoted from, I believe it was P12, because Kvyat was in 11th, and he got a 10th place grid penalty, which he can serve properly, so he'll be starting in, I believe, 21st place, I think it was, if he finished in 11th, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, Perez in 10th place, doing a good job compared to his teammate Hulkenberg, who went down, what was it, in 13th place right now, in the Force India on the grid start, so Hulkenberg struggling a tiny bit, and Perez only in 10th place. The Force India, obviously you can kind of see they're a bit of a smaller team in terms of they can't keep up in the development race, so they're kind of just falling behind. They always do this season and season out. Force India always start amazing, but eventually they just can't keep up with the amount of money that these top teams are chucking out, so it's sort of inevitable that always Force India start to fall behind unless they get some investment from somewhere, which I don't see happening. I mean, Force India have never been one to be on a big budget. I think that's just like how they like to work, how they like to do their business, because it means they can keep on making money still and be profitable. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame to see that, but you know, it kind of gives us a bit more of a fight maybe, because Force India may have to kind of battle the Ferrari, Kimi Raikkonen, and the Toro Rossos behind them with Verne, who's in 12th place. But yeah, that's been Let's Talk F1 2014, the Italian Grand Prix. Yet again, apologies that I didn't get the video out yesterday. I was very busy, but to be honest, as I said as well, it wouldn't have been too long because the aero updates aren't really that much for the Italian Grand Prix. For Singapore, I'll be doing my best to get the video out on the Friday, because I think Singapore will be a lot more kind of definitely a lot bigger upgrade packages. Definitely teams like McLaren and like Red Bull and Ferrari have been talking about updates for the Singapore Grand Prix, so definitely there'll be more to talk about then. But if you guys did enjoy this video, then do give it a like, comment below on what you thought, and tell me your predictions for the Italian Grand Prix. I want to know your top 10 for the Italian Grand Prix. I'll go through mine right now. I think Hamilton will win the race. I think Rosberg will come second. I think Bottas will come in third. I think Massa will come in fourth. So I think the front 2 rows will stay as they are. I think the third row, I just have a little hunch that Button will get 5th place. I think Alonso will manage to grab 2nd. I think Magnussen will get 6th. Will get 7th, sorry. I think Vettel will come in 8th. I think Ricciardo will come in 9th. And I think Perez might stick on to 10th place. I don't think there's going to be a lot of changing in this race. I think there's going to be plenty of battling, but I think by the end of it, the positions will sort of be the same almost by the end of the race. But yeah, as I said, guys, do comment below your top 10. Always interested to read it. May not reply to any of the comments, but I do read them all to try and get a feel for what the general consensus is on what the Grand Prix is going to unfold. Just something I like to do and think about while I watch the race. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, again, give it a like, comment below what you thought, and all that good stuff about the predictions. Subscribe if you're new for weekly F1 content like this and other gaming content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and hope you enjoy the race tomorrow, and I'll see you guys next time.